you get an insight and you know something, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of afraid that it's not going to be really true and it'll spoil the whole thing for you. But when somebody makes you say it, then, and it's true, then it just makes it more beautiful of a thing.
Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yo. Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yo. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yours.
Sitting in a 4v3.
Everfrog Esports trying to find what angle they can, trying to find somebody out of position.
We're gonna go through on this. Oh, what a roll. We're gonna deflect. White gonna go in.
It's going to be a really, really interesting one.
Oh my god. All of this competition could be so damn close, so I cannot wait for us to finally decide who's going to be the champion. We are expecting some chaos, some great moments.
Abismo has killed 3. Only gonna really need that rampage, so it's gonna clear it out. Sanji gonna get themselves a big old 4K. Sanji's getting rid of 3, clearing out the house.
That is crazy.
Nunji actually kills 3 people.
This team feels entirely different on this faster composition. Now Sagafar is hanging around, getting onto the high ground. Post bomb's gonna stick under Linky. They're not gonna be able to survive it at the end of the day. Blue manages to find a 3K.
Rio shoving this Ana into a corner. Woo! One more for the road for Rio.
That is all signs go. Melophobia with 3 Melophobia. Start the fight. They'll end the fight. Oh my god. Beagle Bus, they have to play aggressively into this energy, popping off in a moment where you needed just that. Ruby in that backline. Oh, the flick. Looking for it. Oh my goodness. The fourth one as well. Do they get the ace? They get the ace.
All right, folks, welcome back to CGL. We are here deep in the weeds of our open bracket North America Division playoffs. We are all the way here. We are in our lower division matches here between two teams who unfortunately got themselves knocked down, now have to fight to stay alive in the playoffs. It is Rags and Rain bringing the action here this fine Sunday evening. These two teams have so much to prove, and of course the loser gets sent home here, Rain.
Yeah, unfortunate to see the time has come. Either Requiem or Primordius Rising going to be falling today, be sent home from this lower bracket. The other team gonna have to try and just stay alive. There's still a lot of lower brackets to still fight through if you get the win here, but that is all you can kind of hope for as we come into this lower bracket.
Yeah, again, these two teams, it's all on the line at this point here, so it's really down to decide who wants it bad enough and who is going to allow themselves to rise from the ashes of their defeat. Both of them, kind of crucially, went down 0-3 in their first round matches to get sent down here, so they both have quite a lot to prove, but against each other might find themselves on a more equal footing than against their previous team, against their previous matchups in that first round there. So with any luck, this should be a decently close match, but, they still have quite a lot to prove before we're ready to crown a victor here.
Yeah, and we do at least have a little bit of information to throw at you guys. We know what map is going to be the first map, and if you have been watching any of CGL playoffs, you're not surprised, because it's Lijiang Tower, because it was always Lijiang Tower.
It always is, it always has been, it always will be Lijiang Tower here. So, yeah, that is going to be your classic opener here in terms of control style, so expect the usual strats when it comes down to it here. And of course, any swaps that tend to come in after we get done with control, of course, unless of course we head to Flashpoint afterwards, as can sometimes be the case if these teams feel very comfortable on those more rush-based compositions. But I'm always curious, Rain, when one of these teams throws a wrench in the works here, if they want to ban like one of these niche, one of these classic support heroes that we always see in these compositions. If someone bans a Kiri or a Lucio coming into a Lijiang Tower like this, that always pings me that they've got something special cooking.
Yeah, I like that, right? Shake things up a little bit on this first map. You might not have a solid idea of kind of what your opponent is going to be rolling out with. These two teams have not faced against each other in either the regular season or, of course, in the playoffs. So you might, maybe have a little idea, but coming into this first map, you're not really going to be able to go out with that kind of target ban to try and shut down your opponent. So all you can do is use your ban to kind of help yourself, right? Make it so that your composition that you're looking to run is going to be a little bit easier. Or if there's, a hero that you just think you're going to have a really terrible time with, you think you're going to get knocked off the map a whole lot, yeah, banning out the Lucio is probably a really great option then.
Yeah, meta's still pretty flexible right now. It's really a question of whether teams want to run this, more, honestly, classic, but now very viable Zarya Reaper comp that we've been seeing so much of lately, or if they want to run counter to that. We've seen a lot of Orisa, especially when you can get that Zarya off the table, is certainly an option here for these rush compositions. Of course, on Lijiang Tower, Ramatra is always a possibility. So, really, rush is likely to be the name of the game here. There are some dive potentials, and again, of course, there's always that possibility of Hazard, who does bridge that gap very nicely, and is in still a decent spot, despite getting sort of a net zero in terms of nerf to buff in the most recent patch, now a couple weeks ago at this point. So things have kind of shaken out and kind of leveled out in a pretty comfortable spot here in terms of what is doable, what isn't. These teams don't have to change up all that much when you get down to it in the end of the day. So 10 more seconds, we'll figure out who our first ban is here. Requiem get the first choice. It is Ramatra. All right, so your rush, that is one less tool available to both these teams.
Yeah, I have to wonder what Requiem are planning to run here. The Ramatra, again, it's not necessarily going to be a hard counter to a whole lot of things. It is really kind of to enable something, which says to me that they might have a read on what Primordius is looking to run. Because again, the Ramatra is not necessarily going to be a counter out to any of your particular strats, unless you so choose to run the Reinhardt, which, I mean, you know, we could be blessed with some Reinhardt here. It definitely is an option. You don't have that pesky Ramantra kind of punching through your shield and just ignoring that damage mitigation altogether. But now, Primordius Rising are going to have their chance, their turn to pick out a ban here. Of course, not going to be able to ban out a tank. So we're looking at either the damage or the support here. And I think that especially in this first map, probably more likely to see kind of a support ban come out, because those damage heroes, you're going to be able to sub them in pretty easily, even if you get one of them banned out. So the support ban can have a little bit more impact on the play style of both these teams.
Yeah, and it is the Reaper ban. Okay, so the DPS ban coming through. But like you said, Rain, I think that if you don't want to run the Reaper, I think Venture can still fill that slot pretty comfortably there. Or you can just run a classic Tracer, even a Tracer Genji we've seen sometimes on Lijiang Tower in recent days. That classic dive alongside a Rush tank can really work wonders here with all the back angle possibilities you have available to you. And of course, we cannot underestimate the possibility of a Freya. Crucially, if teams either feel very strongly or very negatively about a Freya, there's not really an in-between. Teams either love to run it or they really do not want to run into it there. So we'll see if either of these teams, I mean, Requiem and Primordius, haven't really shown themselves either way just yet here. So we'll have to see the further we get on in the series, whether or not that's available to them. But these are our bans for the first map here. So of course, they will both be back in the pool as we get into it. Now, Reaper sometimes is a pocket pick for looking at control and at Flashpoint, but Ramantra honestly has plenty of legs and arms, of course, to work with for almost every single map type here. So that does mean that your opponents here, especially Primordius, are going to have full access to that Ramantra after this map is well and truly done.
Yep, and that means that we're gonna have to see kind of how flexible these teams can be in this first map. See if we see a lot of kind of swaps coming through. Let's take a look at these two teams. Requiem going to be the first up on your screen here. So this will be our starting 5. We have Ellison 7 and Easy on the DPS. Last night on tank, and then the support line here, we have Don't Fix and Heaven. And I do believe that Heaven has had a battle nut change in game. So I think that he is now going by Change. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. But yeah, this is going to be your starting 5 here from Requiem. They do have a handful of substitutions available to them if they do so need that as the series goes on.
On the other side of things, for Primordius Rising, we've got By the Sea and Sorks here for your DPS line. And Captain Crunch on your tank, who, again, as a favorite hero, picks that Reinhardt. I wouldn't be surprised, but again, without that Ram, it's certainly possible. But Suzuka and Spec for your your support line here. Of course, that Lucio classic here, and Ana, maybe later on in the series we'll see for Spec.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to see the Lucio on Lijiang Tower. Like I said, we've been seeing Lijiang as the first map pick for many, many series that have gotten the chance to be streamed on these channels. And the Lucios have really come alive in a lot of these, especially with that boop perk where you get to go a little bit further in your boop once you get it all charged up. A Lucio that's really hunting for it, you have to be very, very careful of. So I'm definitely looking to see how many limbs these support lines can get done, because of course it's, support, not healer.
Yeah, absolutely, especially on Lijiang Tower. It feels like this is such a Lucio playground. Honestly, all 3 of these, even Control Center, you will so often find those Lucios just riding around the outside edge, looking for anyone trying to take that high ground and send them flying into the abyss beyond. So there is still plenty of room to get some crazy boot potential here. Yeah, I'd be surprised if we see anything besides that Lucio Kiriko. It's just kind of the de facto backline, especially on these close quarters maps that, of course, all our control maps tend to be here. If a team wants to play out of a particular style, Kiri Wooyoung is still looking really solid, even though Wooyoung was a little bit rebalanced a little bit ago. Still in a very good spot. That only just kind of brought him into line. So I've even seen the rise once again of the return of Brig Juno. I honestly wouldn't expect to see a ton of it here on Lijiang Tower in particular, but that is still a possibility. I'd love to get to see that out of these backlines. Just 2 heroes who can keep each other very safe, and especially with those adjustments that a lot of our flyers have had recently, both Juno and, of course, Echo on DPS, are able to strafe a bit more effectively, get a little bit more dodge capability with it. But it looks as though, I mean, this is still the hover, so we don't know just yet, but not at all a surprise here if Primordius runs out on this.
Oh, yeah, Primordius looking pretty classic here with capping over on that hazard. Requiem, though, last night is on this Reinhardt. The doors are about to open, so it looks like these two teams locking in their final comps here. We are going to have the cast swap over on the side of Primordius, but otherwise looking pretty good here. Ellison is on the Symmetra here, so we can see that Requiem are looking to get themselves set up on this point, courtesy of this Symmetra teleporter.
I love the Reinhardt pick out from last night, truly living up to that screen name right there. That is full Wilhelm on the objective there. And of course, sticking here with this Symmetra, these teleport strats already running rings around Primordius Rising, who are just trying to get a handle on where this composition is actually operating out of here. But that does mean they're fully in control of this objective to kick things off here. By the sea, though, yeah, Change having a difficult time, of course, standing to the flexibility and distance that By the Sea can gain. It feels like once the surprise potential of that teleport was dealt with and handled, Primordius Rising had their wits about them, and they actually take first cap here with a team kill, no less.
Yeah, Primordius Rising did a great job kind of finding the angles there. We saw By the Sea just really controlling that white room, and it just made it really hard for Requiem, especially last night on this Reinhardt, to be able to kind of shield off all this damage, but really nice opening pick here from Change. I think if you're going to run this Zenyatta with this Reinhardt, you for sure need to be putting out lots and lots of damage.
Yeah, it's Ellison already falling down yet again as this fight kicks off here. This sim strat, I mean, it's just so tough to re-aggress on these objectives. If you lose it with that strat to begin with, it is not exactly an offensive strat. It is pure defense. You're relying on getting that first take, and far from the case here as Primordius Rising pretty easily take that one.
Do see a little bit of a swap here for Requiem. Ellison is going to move over onto the Mei off of that Symmetra. You kind of have to at this point. You know, the Sim is really good for that surprise strat, but yeah, once Primordius has an idea of how you're looking to play that, and on top of you not having any speed on the side of Requiem, this swap is going to be much needed. The Orisa as well, but Cap and Crunch finding the angle here, and the nice thing about the hazard is that you can control this high ground basically for free.
Yeah, and they didn't even know that he was there for a good moment. Building up towards this downpour as most of Primordius Rising are going to have their ults coming into this fight. Only Spec with that one, just letting that downpour go immediately. Captain Crunch eats almost an entire health bar's worth of damage, though, but is able to lock the team up for just a little bit longer here as Requiem just having a tough time aggressing over the bridge. The Orisa Swamp is kind of perfect, though. Into this hazard, that is really your primary answer, but still, you're without a lot of defensive capabilities. You take so much damage on approach here, especially as By the Sea is mostly uncontested, landing that pulse bomb onto the wall. No trouble whatsoever, as getting that kill into the Wuyong is more than enough, and that is spend of the Kitsune Rush here from Suzuka. I guess it's good enough to cinch up the team fight, but at the Deadeye, that's, I wouldn't, oh no, we're in the final seconds. Doesn't matter, they're spending the ultimates. I forgot how fast it was rolling. They were already good the whole time. Primordius Rising, I did not recognize your game. Nothing to worry about. Cleaning up those end ultimates. I mean, yeah, just spending them for fun. 100-0. What a start for Primordius Rising.
They look fantastic, but I also have to say Requiem looks very shaky on this composition. I'm not really feeling the synergy between the Zenyatta and the Wuyong, and then you pair that with kind of the Mei and the Orisa. So I'm glad to see some swaps coming in from them right now. Somebody on this team is absolutely going to need to put By the Sea in check, where you're not running that Lucio, you're not running a Tracer of your own. I like to see Easy moving over onto this Cassidy. You're going to be able to at least put some pressure onto By the Sea, because right now, I mean, you mentioned it, Regs, they're just always on a flank. Like, By the Sea is just constantly behind you, doing so much poke damage, and then finding the limbs as well, just tearing your backline apart. So it is going to be that Venture making an appearance here for Ellison last night over on the Diva. Don't fix over onto the Baptiste. So a whole lot of changes here for Requiem. I'm interested to see if this is going to make a difference.
I was going to talk about how much I love to see that Venture out here on this submap, but that's Ellison immediately getting blasted down as Sorks here on this Cassidy, finding the better of the opposition already in Change, and you called it out, Rain. Just no mobility whatsoever for this poor Zenyatta, getting absolutely bodied here, and that is last night getting deeply staggered here on the objective as the Baby Diva finally falls. Yeah, this composition is still kind of all over the place. I don't know how this Zen fits into everything.
No, it's really hard to play with these kind of like longer fights now where you have this Zen and you're looking to get this Discord orb onto somebody, and then okay, you have Ellison on the Venture as well, but then last night over on this Diva, I mean, you don't really have the opportunity to really take these long fights. You need to get in and you need to get out fairly quickly. Primordius Rising now in control of this point, and they have this white room on lockdown, and you're not going to be able to take these frontline kind of fights when you have this Diva.
No, but an early kill onto Captain Crunch might be just the opening they need here, holding on to the objective as last night flips that over in favor of Requiem, so Primordius Rising now have to get themselves to safety as they have a little bit more time to think about their approach. 27% gained is not nothing, but certainly nowhere near the early start, and this is by the sea. You just gotta watch out for this Tracer, always behind you at all times, finding the kill, not quite cleaning up that health back perfectly timed there. Sorks just able to, or rather, Date's just able to stay alive, as Sork's on the opposite side cleaning up. So this is still so much damage coming in on the objective here. Last night getting the kill onto that Cassie is just not enough, as Primordius Rising still proudly rolling over the objective here, and they will finally flip back into their favor and take the lead once again.
Yeah, and definitely way ahead in the ult economy as well. Both those DPS ults ready to go. Captain Crunch with the downpour too. Now, last night has done a decent amount of damage here on the D.Va, so you're going to be able to get that bomb online very shortly. Very likely just going to see that as kind of the remake here, but Change On needs to kind of get this this Transcendence online fairly quickly, because that might be your saving grace against all these ults.
Early downpour laid out into the White Room, locks up just 1 or 2 members, but they're able to occupy the tank for a few moments longer here, and it's DEZ here on the high ground, cleaning up 2, taking a 3rd one there in the hands of last night. That is an excellent opening to this fight. We're an ult spent for Primordius Rising. You don't have to spend anything here. Ellison now going to be back here on the Genji.
Yeah, I'm impressed that Requiem was able to kind of sustain through that. Really well played and good read, and now you commit this Transcendence, you get aggressive. This is exactly what they need to do to try and get some more percentage on the board here, and might even have the opportunity to overtake Primordius Rising, as we are going to have a brief Bastion swap to make sure that we don't get spawn camped too much here. But yeah, back over to the Tracer as Requiem in control. You have Ellison over on the Genji as well, so I like that swap to try and work with this D.Va more.
Yeah, I think they make an excellent decision here. The Genji really works well with that Cassie and trying to pressure out your opponent as well. Of course, that Tracer having a tough time running around the Genji, fast as it is. But last night is there to finish off that Kiriko, and Primordius Rising kind of getting held at their spawn doors right now. And we are well past 70% here for Requiem, so potentially last fight territory.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Suzuka does have this Kitsune Rush to try and break through this choke point. That's going to do a great job of kind of creating this space. But By the Sea also going to do a great job at creating space just by putting your foot on the objective and actually flipping it.
That is insane there. We saw By the Sea go for these wraparounds, but we thought that Requiem was marking them the entire time. Turns out not the case. That is the rest of Primordius Rising here, now fighting with the benefits of both support ultimates. They want to go fast. They want to go now. They need to clean up these supports, and Captain Crunch, I mean, feasting for days on the back line of Requiem, and what looked like such a great hold position for them was immediately turned on its head.
Yeah, this is a really good play from By the Sea. The Tracer, there's kind of a couple of ways to break a choke point. You either overcommit your ultimate, so you just have your Tracer go back, and to be able to get the flip off of that as well was really, really huge for Primordius.
But a massive discord onto Captain Crunch. I mean, that might be just the opening to swing things back in Requiem's favor, and what a tough flip if they get this in control. Yes, it's going to be back in Requiem's hands here, but we are trading blow for blow in this fight. No clean finish to it whatsoever here, as we're down to, I think, 2 left on either side, but the tank still in the fight here for Requiem is absolutely massive. Captain Crunch, has to be said, is back here on that Wrecking Ball, so the point is trying to be flipped back in Primordius Rising's favor. We'll see if we get a touch on the point. Yes, there is contest happening here from Requiem, but without building up towards that window, don't fix falling down. That is almost all of your healing going the way of the wind, and with the pulse bomb, a D.Va bomb dropped here into the sky. Turns out it's not going to be enough. Everyone just steps back for a few moments, and that is all the benefit you're going to get. Just a little bit of distance, but there's just so much pressure here around the objective, so much cover to be had, and so much damage coming out from Primordius Rising, cleaning up the remaining members of Requiem one by one here. They found something that worked, but unfortunately it was too little too late. This first map goes the way of Primordius Rising 2-0.
I like to see the side of Requiem coming alive, though. That was good to see. It was another 100-0. Definitely made Primordius Rising work for this one. But regardless, I mean, this composition that Primordius is looking to kind of play, working really, really well. I can see why, you ban out the Reaper here. It's going to allow you to play this Hazard a little bit more comfortably. And then even we saw some of the counter swaps coming in from the side of Requiem, where we saw the Orisa come out. We saw a lot of swaps happening. So definitely right now, it looks like Primordius Rising are more comfortable in their game plan coming into this.
Yeah, it's good to see some signs of life from them. I still have a little bit questions about the composition rolling out the gate there. I think there were moments of brilliance for that Zenyatta. Certainly that Transcendence coming in clutch and plenty of excellent Discord opportunities. That was really what allowed them in those fights they were winning, in those places where they did wrest control from the opposition. It was on the back of excellent Discord play and everyone just piling directly onto Captain Crunch. I mean, that hazard, once, the spike guard runs out and you're just full on taking Discord damage, very little you can do in the face of that. So I do see glimpses of the vision from them, but I don't think it was nearly enough, and they certainly didn't look nearly comfortable until we got into kind of the last stages of it. By that point, you'd already lost one round, 0 to 100, and this second one was kind of half gone before they really found their footing.
Yeah, it's a rough start. It's a rough start for Requiem, but you do have the benefit now that they're going to be able to take us to the next map, and they're going to have a pretty much wide open field to work with. So whatever map type they want to go to, they can take us there. It can't be Control, of course. We won't go there just yet again, but I think that if Requiem can kind of lock in on which composition they really want to be playing, which one of those kind of felt the best, I think that the D.Va comp did look pretty good for them on Control Center, which is kind of ironic given the Control Center is definitely going to be the most brawl favored of all of those sub maps. But having that composition ready to go, I think that taking us to one of those maps where there's going to be a decent amount of kind of vertical mobility that you can kind of work around, I think would be probably the best bet for Requiem to try and get us tied up here.
Yeah, honestly, the further we get into this series, I mean, we'll see exactly what Primordius wants to run getting further on into this, but I think a hazard ban might be in order here at some point for Requiem. Already looking so strong out of the gate here, and really that Discord is the only answer they had. Of course, only swapping at the very end to that Wrecking Ball just to get a touch, but even then, I mean, the hazard was just dominating and destroying your opening plays so often there, allowing you to go first and to go fast. Again, really splitting the difference between that brawl and dive possibility that Lijiang Tower kind of revels in, especially on Control Center. That White Room was never out of the hands of Primordius Rising. Even when the wins were going the way of Requiem, they were not able to gain positional control apart from the objective itself.
Yeah, and I think that really showed how much faster Primordius was able to kind of retake the objective versus when Requiem was trying to go for those retakes, is because Primordius was like positioning so that even if, the objective is not in your control, you can win the fight. And that is the most important thing, definitely, when it kind of comes to these control points. And also having By the Sea be able to kind of play off on an angle essentially uncontested for the vast majority of, all of first map, and then a good chunk of second map. We did see the cast swap come in, but it still kind of felt like By the Sea was not being contested too much. Getting that entire flip from a back cap, you can't really be letting that happen if you're Requiem. So I definitely hope that if you're not going to take the Tracer duel, you definitely got to keep a closer eye on that Tracer, because although her bullets are a little bit smaller, she is still incredibly impactful.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, alone that flip won in the round, but it certainly was indicative of the game that Primordius were playing the entire way through. Requiem, I think they just were a little bit too slow on the draw to make it last the entire way through, but it certainly does show, I completely agree, Rain, that, they weren't fully conscious of their surroundings and conscious of the possibility that By the Sea was always going to be behind them somewhere. I mean, that was evident enough on the first round, where even if you don't get the Pulse Bomb stick, just cleaning up the back line, and of course, there's very little a Zen can do when a Tracer locks sights onto you. The Wuyong, I mean, I just watched that poor guy just fall apart every single time, and they forced that swap pretty quickly in the first round.
Yeah, it's too bad. I was hoping we get to see a little bit more Wuyong, but that's the thing, is that, you have the kind of option to run away, but you don't have a whole lot in terms of, peel potential, which kind of including, when you're running that Wuyong Zen backline, it's all about just, trying to find elimination. So if you're not finding those kills kind of first, that's where things tend to fall apart. But Regs, we at least know where Requiem has decided to take us for the second map.
Yeah, we are heading to push for our next game mode, and it is Runa Sapi as our decided location here. So, all right, this is... Honestly, I'm really excited that they chose a push map here. I think this could really play to kind of what they wanted to be working with here, kind of allowing for sight lines, allowing for some distance, but also being able to play up close and personal when they need to. I mean, I would be surprised if we see Reinhardt come out again. I'm assuming that was a bit of a pocket strat for Lijiang Tower, but I also wouldn't usually count on seeing the Reinhardt anyway on Lijiang Tower. It's not really that kind of meta anymore, so Requiem might just stick with what they feel most comfortable on here, but if they wanted to make more work with that Diva that we mentioned was looking really solid for them. I think that's plenty possible here. Even the Orisa, if they're not going to ban the Hazard, I think Orisa is kind of mandatory, honestly.
I agree, because Orisa's going to be able to kind of shut down that Hazard, the cooldowns, but you also have, like you mentioned, there's a lot of longer sight lines on Runasapi, so having a tank that has a bit more kind of damage potential at these distances is going to be super beneficial for a team that's looking to kind of keep their distance a bit. And okay, yeah, banning out the Tracer here, I think that's very smart from Requiem, especially if you're not going to play the Tracer. Yeah, you got to get her out of there.
Yeah, I think, it was either the Hazard or the Tracer or your two most dangerous opponents on the opposite side right now. But by the sea, of course, as we got to see the little hero musical chairs when they were still in spawn, has plenty of things available at his disposal. So certainly plenty of room to work with here, all things considered. Primordius banning out then Zenyatta. I mean, look. Here's the thing, we wouldn't be expecting to see that, but again, if that's your pocket pick, if that's where you're most comfy, yeah, get it out of their hands. Force them to play a mirror composition, force them to play something more meta where they didn't feel like they wanted to take you in the first place. I think that's a solid read for Primordius.
I agree, right? If we're seeing that much Zenyatta on Lijiang Tower, it's definitely got to be something to do with kind of like a comfort pick and just who you're most practiced on. So taking that out on map 2, especially, we've been saying, like, Zenyatta could kind of work here, right? You have some pretty long sight lines. You're not going to have anybody sneaking up on you because there's no Tracer in the fight. And now taking that Zen out is going to force Requiem onto something a little bit different, and I am very curious to see what is going to be in place of this. Is it going to be another flex support? Are we going to get some Lucio speed at some time from this team? Potentially. It's looking like that's going to be a maybe, as we do have the Lucio Kiriko backline being hovered here for Requiem. Last night on the Mauga as well definitely is an option. Primordius, if they run out with this Sombra by the Sea, not able to play that Tracer, I think that it could be a really nice play here. That EMP, really great for kind of canceling out the entire Mauga ultimate. And all right, Rags, yep, this is what we're going to get for both these teams.
Great. Honestly, I'm really excited to see Primordius Rising's comp here. Again, that Brig Juno, I think, is in a good spot right now, especially when it's buoying up that Ramatra in the front line here. However, of course, the Mauga is... I keep hearing how good Mauga is these days, but we've only seen him a little bit on occasion here. I'm glad to see it once again. Last night here, leading the charge on this very large target here for Primordius Rising, but still able to force so much damage. These force crits have gotten quite a few adjustments here in recent days, but still taking a bunch of damage here. As when you go in deep like this, you have to play a bit more carefully. The rest of the team of the opposition is focusing directly on you. By the Sea cleaning up Des G in the back of this here as this Sombra is trying to find some value, but it is Last Night with the kills, the finish up. Just so much overwhelming damage and excellent support out here from the back line for Requiem.
Yeah, I really, really love to see this Lucio Kiriko working for Requiem. I think that Primordius Rising as Suzuka on the Brig is going to have a little bit of a tough time kind of against this Mauga. Your shield is going to get melted pretty quickly, and not only that, all of the damage that Last Night is going to be able to do on a Cap and Crunch is just, it's going to be hard to keep that up between the Brig and the Juno, because they're definitely more focused on kind of keeping each other alive and then having your tank kind of sustain on their own.
Yeah, and honestly, by the Sea, I'm not seeing a ton of great targets here apart from maybe the Genji to work with in terms of hack potential. So not going to find as much value as you'd like to in a composition you're probably expecting them to run out with here. So Primordius Rising kind of in an awkward spot compositionally speaking, but we'll see if they make it work. By the Sea has been able to find these kills no matter what. So shouldn't be too worried here as Captain Crunch able to combine as you just have one remaining target. Change does not get away, life intact. Crucially, that first cap was not gained here. Primordius, I mean, when they win a fight, they really win it. Team kill right there.
Yeah, it's super clean, really nice stuff. Requiem on that longer spawn, because like you mentioned, that checkpoint wasn't picked up, so gonna get a little bit of bot progress here for free on the side of Primordius. You do have that rally and that Juno ult coming online shortly. Very aggressive push in here from Last Night.
Suzuka, I feel your pain. That is just a terrible situation to be in here. That Brig shield, tissue paper in the face of Mauga's chain guns. But still, Last Night taking so much damage, about to have this cage fight online though, dealing so much in return. Captain Crunch as well, that Annihilation ready to roll here. The second we start this next engagement, by the Sea about to have this EMP. Look for a heavy ult investment from both these teams in this next fight here as the bot has swung back. Still in the lead on the side of Requiem. Ooh, Captain Crunch has to play a bit more carefully here, taking so much damage, and that That is the Brig rally. Everything invested just to keep the team alive. Cage fight here to try and lock down the members of the opposition, and that is the blade out from Ellison as they are slicing, dicing, and all together icing out the opposition. Primordius Rising, they spent both support ults in that fight and got nothing for their trouble. Now talk about a clean fight. There's a team kill for Requiem.
And Requiem are really finding their footing here. I love this kind of 1-2 combo between the slam in and then the dash coming in from Ellison. And really nice kind of disengage here. This EMP is online by the Sea, but I mean, he just can't catch a break. He's being caught out every time.
No, I mean, that Genji just turns and look at you. That lockout is not nearly as long as you'd like it to be. And of course, with the EMP, that's just a percentage of the damage. It's not going to finish you off. Captain Crunch rolling with this Annihilation, though. Still taking so much damage just on the approach. I mean, that's kind of the difficulty of running into this Mauga. And of course, you do have DesG, of course, running those railgun shots directly onto you. Something you've got to be conscious of. But Sorks here is also doing their very best. He's just trying to keep it alive. Ellison falling down. This is another chance for them to gain some progress, but still, that's quite a lead gain for Requiem.
Yeah, and Requiem did get that forward spawn, I believe, so you're going to be able to take a very early fight here before Primordius is able to get towards that checkpoint. This EMP from By the Sea needs to be really big. That beat's not online to counter it.
No, there it is. Last night obliterated. There is no health bar in the world that can sustain such a focused EMP presence. The rest of the team knowing exactly where to draw their attention. And that is just a combination of that Baptiste and the Sojourn cleaning up everything else with Spec contributing as well to the kill feed. A solid fight, spending just a single ult to keep that one going.
Yeah, big fight-winning ult. You need to win the fight off that EMP, so really nice stuff to target out the tank, right? Mauga's not going to be able to use that shout to keep himself alive, but now it's a Kitsune Rush ready from Change here, and it's big aggression coming up from Requiem.
Yeah, already falling back. Here's Captain Crunch holding permanent block arms here at this point. You're just trying to get away with your lives intact, wait out that rush so you can power forward here, trying to find a position here to use his overclock, but of course, you'd love to not have to. There it is. Combined with the window out, that is just enough to get them rolling here. Last night falling down, and you're kind of with the dearth of targets to target here with your overclock running, and it is Don't Fix getting taken down. Everyone else on Requiem falling one by one here. Sorks more holding the threat that was that overclock, but still plenty of team value to be gained there. Still holding a couple in reserve for this next one.
Yeah, Primordius Rising did pick up the lead there as well. So now Requiem gonna have to win a couple back-to-back fights, and it's gonna be kind of tricky in the face of this orbital ray that's ready to go from Spec. Ellison does have the blade here, which should, in theory, be able to kind of cut through that ultimate, especially where you have a bunch of other ults to kind of back you up. If you need to commit the beat, you do have that available for the mid-fight.
Oh, but Ellison going down immediately. I mean, that is their combo ult for so many of these others that they have in store. That cage fight with the blade was just such an excellent finisher last time, and you are losing everyone within sight here. It is just so much damage coming out. Suzuka and Sorks are sort of having a bit of a duel to see who can get the most kills, most headshots at the end of these engagements. And we're pushing towards the end of the map here, Rain.
Yeah, the cage is ready to go here. You need to commit it. You might even need to commit another ultimate just to try and win this one fight.
Oh, that man went double digits, but just kept alive by that sound barrier. Don't Fix knowing exactly how to keep that team running here. And that is a spend for 3 ults in that fight. You had to, though. You had to spend as much as absolute possible just to keep yourself alive. A team kill gain, yes, but Primordius have so much to work with and those forward spawns.
Yeah, this is going to be a very rough fight here for Requiem, and you don't really have the option to kind of back out of things. You want to try and take this fight at this point where you can take away the forward spawn here from Primordius. DesG is going to have a really big overclock here, but once again, the EMP online for By the Sea.
Oh, welcome to the wood chipper, Requiem. That is a massive EMP laying directly over their heads, cleaning up 2 immediately, and that overclock from DesG is just not nearly enough to keep them in this fight here. That is a massive amount of value gained for just 1 ult there for By the Sea. So Primordius Rising, yeah, we didn't even get back to the neutral for that bot, and we are already moving once again.
No, and the only thing that Requiem have to work with is this Kitsune Rush, and last time Primordius Rising did a really fantastic job of just kiting right out of it.
Yeah, but again, they have to spend because that bot is going to push directly into their spawn doors if they're not careful here, and that is going to be Annihilation rolling for Captain Crunch. Still taking so much damage on approach. As long as Last Night is in these fights, you cannot count this team out just yet here. We are down to just under a minute, 2 minutes 30 rather, and Primordius are finding themselves still in a solid position, but they are spending ults and not gaining a ton of distance for their trouble here. Hack comes on to Last Night, trying to find some focus here onto this Malga. Of course, the most deadly planet on the board here for Requiem. Finally getting that kill by the sea. Sticking on the Sombra is paying dividends at the end of these engagements here, but the trades keep coming as Ellison is able to get the better of Captain Crunch, and we are still going 1 for 1, pound for pound here, and it looks like there's just 2 alive on each side, but the spawn's very much favoring Requiem here.
Yeah, Requiem's gonna start walking this bot back, hoping to get this forward spawn taken away from Primordius Rising. Everybody has already respawned, so it's gonna be another fight kind of at that neutral point. The window available from Suzuka, nothing quite online for Requiem just yet, but Allison is looking to get this blade up.
Now, an excellent early kill onto By the Sea. I mean, that Sombra's been such a strong opener, but Sorks is right there, waiting at the top of the jump pad, and just fish in a barrel takes Ellison clean out of it there. Last Night falling as well. That is your linchpin of this composition, but change is not done just yet. They want to keep fighting this one out, but Requiem, I don't know if they have the bodies to go toe-to-toe with Captain Crunch here on this Ramatra.
No, no, you're just gonna be kind of running around. Okay. Does manage to pick up one, immediately gets punished there. This blade is ready to go here for Ellison, but you need the support of your team to try and really find the value. In fact, you won't even need it. Less than 60 seconds, and once again, Requiem is in control of this bot, and because of kind of the staggers of kills that came in, finally, you're not going to be taking a fight exactly at this neutral. You're going to have a little bit more space to work with, but Requiem have all the ults in the bank. They just don't need to use everything all at once.
Well, they're using at least 2 at once, so let's hope they hold on to spending any more than this for now. Ellison immediately getting a kill onto Suzuka. An excellent opening here. That should clean up this initial fight and allow you to at least get these forward spawns online, but it's still quite an uphill climb. You've got more than twice the distance to make up here, but it looks like you're in a good position to do so. Still 3 ults to go.
Yeah, you need to get into this ult cycling. This is working really well for Requiem. It's been in a little bit of a shambles this entire kind of map, but now you're up against another EMP. You're ready to go here from By the Sea. Honestly, you're not really going to be able to kind of cancel it out. You either need to find By the Sea early and force this Sombra out, or you need to just play split.
I mean, if Last Night goes down, that's the end of this push here for Requiem, and it is the kills coming through. I'm that cage fight. You're trapped in here with me, says Captain Crunch. That annihilation powering through, blasting down that poor Malga, and that is Requiem's hopes dashed once again for the 2nd map in a row. Primordius Rising will take the 2nd map in the series and go to match point.
Yeah, there was, again, it felt like a little bit more signs of life here from Requiem, looking a little bit more kind of cohesive. I think it came down to some of the timing of these ultimates was just a lot of overcommitment happening, which, you know, that can be okay, but when you're up against a team like Primordius Rising, who has been very, very decisive in their ultimates and very restrained in, you know, winning a fight off of one single EMP, it's really hard to kind of contest with a team that is making really big value from their ultimates like that.
Yeah, it's honestly a tough loss considering they started off so strong on Runa Soft. They looked really good coming out of the gate. Felt like they finally found a composition that really let them stretch their wings and able to play something a little bit more within the meta that really suited their strengths, but unfortunately just not meant to be for that one. However, there is still at least one more to come, folks, but we're going to go to a quick break here, but do not worry, we'll be back in just a few moments with the 3rd and deciding map of the series. Welcome back, folks. CGL returns here. We are in the midst of our lower bracket match here in the open division between, of course, Requiem and Primordius Rising, who are currently up right now 2-0. And Requiem here are in danger of going home and losing out on the rest of their postseason here, while Primordius, they're in a good spot to continue a lower bracket run.
Yeah, Primordius Rising has looked really, really good so far. Clean 2-0 on Lijiang. A little bit of back and forth on the second point, and then nice kind of comeback on Runasabi, losing that lead early on, but really staying focused and winning kind of back-to-back fights really, really nicely. Requiem, though, they have one last map pick here. And they have already decided where we're going, and it's no surprise to anybody because we had to do King's Row at some point.
Yes, we had to. It's actually in the rules somewhere. You have to do King's Row. It is just one of those things that if you have King's Row in the pool, that's just where you're going. It's just a thing that's going to happen here. And you just have to deal with it, and we have to deal with it, and you know what? That's perfectly fine, Rain. I'm perfectly fine with that. And I am. Because that means we get to see some of these strategies that we're actually working here for Requiem. So if they want to stick with this Malg composition, King's Row is plenty possible to make that work for you. However, you might want to run a tank protection ban yourself, because if you don't, you can guarantee that your opposition here are going to ban out that Malga, that one bright spot for you in that previous map.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, we saw a whole bunch of different tanks kind of come out for the side of Requiem in the first map in Lijiang Tower, but stuck on Malga the entire time through Runasapi, and definitely was a closer matchup to the team against Primordius. But I don't know if you go for what tank ban you go for here, because we did see the Hazard get some play. No, we are not going to protect ban tank. We are going to ban out the Ashe here. We haven't seen any Ashe be played just yet in this series, but Ashe definitely is still very strong on King's Row.
Yeah, there's still plenty of room to work with it. Could also maybe call it a DPS protection ban if they're trying to keep something in the pocket for themselves. But yeah, Ashe, well, you can see here on King's Row, I don't know it would fully map onto what Primordius have been running so far in terms of their comps. We saw if they want to slow things down, they usually want to run, at least in the previous map, they liked running that Sombra and actually stuck with it the entire time. By the Sea has been able to stick with these backline harassing heroes here. So whether it's the Tracer or the Sombra, I expect to see that. And yep, that's kind of what I would have done in your position too. The Malga ban, that one, bright spot of the tank here for Requiem. Not an option in this map here, so expect, if they want to stick with that D.Va composition that was actually working for a few moments at the very end of Lijiang Tower, that's still doable here. D.Va still has plenty of potential, even though this is traditionally very much a rush brawl map. I think with the high ground flexibility here, especially when you're talking about the first point and into the third, there is still more than enough room to run D.Va. Or if you want to stick with that initial Reinhardt pick that you did on Lijiang Tower, look, this is home base, essentially, for Reinhardt here is King's Row. So, plenty of options, I suppose, just not the one that did you best in the last map.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna run the Reinhardt, I guess King's Row would be the place to do it, but so far, not looking like that's what we're going to get here. It is going to be last night over on the D.Va here. We are on a backline. I like this for the side of Requiem. Change is going to be able to get set up on that high ground to be fairly safe there. And then you have last night on this D.Va that's going to be able to kind of peel up there if it is so needed. That anti-nade could be very, very impactful if you can kind of get those timings right. And this opens up the door for maybe a little bit of a nano blade down the line. Primordius, you're still in the spawn here. You're on the attack, so you can mess with me a little bit. Let's see. It is going to be some swaps coming in here. The Ramatra, that Freya that we were kind of mentioning, By the Sea is on the Widow now, just kind of looking for some opening picks. I suspect might swap over onto that Tracer or Genji. No, okay, we are going to get the Mei coming out here. This actually could work well for Requiem because it's not going to be very easy to get any of these heroes that Requiem is playing kind of trapped behind that Mei wall.
Yeah, Des getting an early pick out there onto Sorks is just going to halt that first push coming out here from Primordius, but now really looking like they want to stick with this composition that they rolled out with on Runasabi here. This Brig Juno backline, not just because I have a Brig bias, I love to see these two together here. It's a really solid backline pairing when you're not facing down a Mauga, that is. By the Sea, nailing LS7 to the wall, unfortunately. That is the loss of your backline pressure there, and you've got Captain Crunch just holding down the high ground. You have to have your Diva playing protection, playing bodyguard here for your backline. Meanwhile, the point, I mean, they were content. There we go. Finally, they're back in control of it. That is one tick gained, very nearly a second here, and already losing your backline. Yeah, Requiem just falling apart, unfortunately, here, and gets the overwhelming pressure coming out from this Ramatra, whether it's high ground or low ground. Who needs a dive tank when your Ramatra can go wherever he wants?
Yeah, Captain Crunch is just absolutely walking all over Requiem. I mean, last night didn't even really get a chance to contest the payload because you're too busy dealing with this Ramatra. Requiem does seem like, yeah, a lot of people got that long spawn here, so you're not going to be able to kind of push up to that first choke point. And I mean, Primordius is going to be able to push this cart through there for free and a good little chunk of kind of streets phase as well. You have that Bola ready to go for Sorks, Q's, and Captain Crunch going to have this Annihilation online very shortly. Requiem doesn't have any speed of any type, and so you're either hoping the change is going to be able to get a sleep onto this Annihilation, or you're just going to have to try and burn that tank down very quickly.
Yeah, that backspawn kind of a devastating thing, but an eat onto the Bola shot. Sorks a little bit too telegraphed there, not finding nearly as much as you'd love to get out of it, certainly, and also falling down. Insult to injury as Ellison cleans up that Freya from the high ropes. Yeah, swapping over to this Sojourn, I think, is the right call here. Just not finding as much value as you want to on that Freya. Burn the ult, go for it as you can. Captain Crunch cleaning up the Ana, so again, all you have to worry about healing you in, well, would have been that Wu Yang, but Annihilation still tickling you as you run away there. Only speed available is just for Wu Yang to himself and no longer. So without that Tidal Blast, didn't see who that landed onto, but yeah, Requiem, yeah, swapping here, it is going to be Soul Gaze onto this Curie instead. I like this in terms of flexibility, in terms of your Suzu potential, but you're already more than halfway through Streets phase.
Yeah, and I don't know if Requiem is even going to be able to get a really good touch here. Looks like they positionally are there, but you're coming into this rally. By the Sea is going to have the Blizzard online shortly. Nice sleep dart, though, on Captain Crunch to start things out.
Yeah, really solid opening here, and you finally are going to recontest that Nano on to Dez here. That Nano clock rolling, doing some serious work. Spec taken out before you could build up towards that orbital ray. So I'm going to save that one for the next engagement here. Maywell, though, from By the Sea, doing an enormous amount of work, trying to keep the team separated off and from eating too much damage coming out here from this front line of Requiem. So they're trying to get the cleanup kills, and Dez has been really reliable here on this Sojourn all map long, even though they've been retreating the entire time. Very much cleaning up on the DPS, so really solid work here from that Sojourn. Last night, finally getting that kill into Captain Crunch. This is going to spell a full retreat from Primordius, as we do have the first fight win, essentially, from that first one here for Requiem.
Yeah, it was pretty clean, too, to come back into this. You get to sleep onto the tank, and then you go in with that Nano Overclock. Really nice stuff from Requiem to kind of combo those ults together. And now, finally, you're up here at this nice choke point that you want to hold at, but, oh, you're up against the Mei, so they're going to be able to walk through fairly easily.
Yep, goes for the remake here. Last night blasted down, but does not able to get back into it. No, that is Captain Crunch there with Nemesis form pummeling that Diva into submission. Apollos, though, here hits the server, folks. So a few moments while we sort things out here on the player side of things. Do not worry, though. The action will continue as soon as it can. But yeah, so a really solid initial, fight win here for Requiem. I think this is kind of the stopgap measure, the breath they actually need to take in order to have a chance at holding. I mean, if we had allowed that cap at point B to come through, that was just such a difficulty. Like, that was just, that would have honestly been such a devastating loss, losing point B that quick. So I think this is a really solid spot to find themselves in defensively.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that I wish that they would have taken a little bit longer to kind of breathe, like you mentioned, because right away you kind of go in, you try to use that Diva Bomb aggressively, you get kind of killed in the midst of it. So right now, it is going to be Requiem once we have this DC'd player join back into the lobby. Requiem is going to be on the back foot here as you lost your tank. And even though, the Diva's not going to be able to put as much pressure onto that Ramantra, you can at least kind of draw some of those resources away from the supports and try and win the frontline fight that way. So it's in a rough spot here, Requiem, but they had a really, really great retake at that second point last time. So they might be able to pull it out again. They aren't going to have that nano overclock to work with. And I have to say, Primordius Rising still have this Blizzard in their pocket, so you really have to be watching for that if you're Requiem. It's a lot of pressure onto the Diva to try and deny that.
Yeah, all series long, Primordius have been very judicious with their ultimates. They have not overinvested so far in pretty much any engagement that I can recall here. Really solid use, really, they're not overinvesting in any of these fights. Even when they are losing, they're still being very conscious, very conservative with it, which I think is crucial when you're dealing with a team that you feel like, at this point in the series, you feel like you can have them beat on a fundamental level here, so you do not want to overinvest. You do not want to run the risk of giving them any room for, engagements on their own front here. You don't want to give them an inch because, we've seen from Requiem, when they have these moments of brilliance, they can certainly get a lot of work done. They got a full 60 meters on their initial push before any distance really was gained on Runasapi just in the previous map here, so you cannot count them out just yet here, but it certainly feels like Primordius are very much in the driver's seat. Like, they really have a solid placing, especially if, taking down the tank immediately in this fight, that's kind of going to spell the end of this one, and honestly, with as close as the payload was, that might be a point B cap.
Yeah, we might be looking at moving into that third point for Requiem's defense, which I do think is going to favor the Diva comp a little bit better. On this Streets phase, there's just not really a whole lot of kind of high ground to work with, and the space that it is, it's very out in the open. You are going to be able to kind of avoid poke damage while you're up there like you can on third point and on first point. So if Requiem do have to secede that second checkpoint, like you said, that payload is very, very close to being capped there. At least you can kind of get yourself set up to play on that defense, that first kind of corner defense, and try to hold that, try to burn as much time off the clock as you can, because right now it's looking like Primordius Rising is really kind of steamrolling towards that checkpoint, or that end of King's Row. So if you can at least make sure that they have very, very little time to work with, that would be really good. If you can't, stop the cap altogether.
Yeah, obviously that would be the most preferable, but, with the way that this offense has been going so far, I think you're just hoping to find a decent time bank here. You want to whittle that down, and that is the cap coming through, a minute 30 gained in addition to what was present, so 3.5 minutes. I mean, that's plenty to work with here by the sea on this May. Just doing so much work here on to last night. Nothing at all you can do in the face of that primary fire coming out with that endothermic blaster. Sorg's about to have, would have been about to have that overclock. In fact, does have it, but is waiting back in spawn. So save that one for a rainy fight here. As Captain Crunch just trying to get out with life intact here, and he's able to do so as Suzuka has this rally as well. But last night clean up by the sea. Yeah, this is a solid, halting of things here for Requiem, but still, 3 minutes is a long time to hold.
Yeah, it's a nice little stagger onto By the Sea, burning second by second. And I like this kind of aggressive hold here. Last night going to be up on this high ground. There isn't really anybody on the side of Primordius Rising that can kind of get up to that high ground. So it allows the Diva to kind of have these positions relatively uncontested.
Yeah, Annihilation rolling. Captain Crunch is at a sliver of health. I mean, that was a very hopeful ultimate there from Captain Crunch, and very much paid the price for it. So the rally as well out from Suzuka, I don't know if you really wanted to have that one out here utilized already, but that was kind of before you already lost your tank and you knew things were going quite as direly as they were. So 2 ults burned for very little value whatsoever, and Captain Crunch swapping here on to the Zarya. I love this pick here into the third point, and we're coming up to a few ults here for Requiem, so this could still be a good point to hold.
Yeah, you gotta watch these bubbles here, because if you can get those forced out, change on the Zenyatta gonna absolutely pull you apart, but Primordius holding strong and opening things up with this overclock.
Yeah, massive work being done. Cleans up both members of the backline. Requiem heading for the hills, or more accurately, the spawn room, to think about what they've done. Ellison as well beating a hasty retreat back to that place of respite. But they're coming into this next one with both support ults and a Diva Bomb for that remech, and also a Blade on the horizon. So they've got some tools to work with here.
Yeah, Primordius do have the orbital strike ready from Spec. Definitely going to be very impactful. You don't have any anti-need to worry about, but this Kitsune rush, it's just going to be forcing everybody to kind of back out. You take a fight in this, you're not going to win.
Yeah, burning both support ultimates at once. This is clearly desperation time here for Requiem. The Blade as well. They're burning 3 ultimates in this fight. Of course, you do not want to have the chance of getting this one swept out from underneath you. Yeah, so really this bot... Oh, no! Allison went for the kill and did not notice the Zarya right behind them. I mean, brutal stuff there. The Juno drifting into oblivion gets to watch you fall before she does.
Requiem, that was such an expensive fight. You did win, but there's still a minute on the clock here. But then that's not going to be enough for you to kind of build up to these ultimates. You know, Dez is going to be able to get this overclock, and you do have the bomb ready for last night, but you're probably going to be forced to just use that to remake here.
Yeah, and we've seen By the Sea with this wall can just easily drop it up, but it is the Blizzard here, so as soon as that D.Va is out of mech, you are locking up that baby D.Va. She is no longer a factor in this fight. CamCrunch rolling forward. This Zarya entirely uncontested by the roster of Requiem. By the Sea as well in the kill feed, and that is a full team kill for a full cap and a good 27 seconds in the time bank. No overtime here for Primordius' push, and now it is up to Requiem to make an equal push of their own or lose and be done with their season.
It's a lot of pressure to push all the way to the end of King's Row. At least there's less than a minute, so if you end up with overtime in your push, Requiem, well, that's okay. We will go into those overtime rounds, but yeah, well, we've seen Primordius just be so restrained most of the time with kind of the way that they're playing into the ultimates from Requiem, and the way that they're playing with their own ultimates. And yeah, losing the 3 ults there in that fight, well, you come up with the win, you always got to be thinking about that next fight. You see a little chat going on here between the two teams.
Yep, a little bit of conversation happening there. Just getting a little bit of chats happening. Yeah, so Requiem now have the chance to show themselves here on the offense. Of course, you know, they don't have that Malga, that crucial component to their bright spots on Rudasapi. So it is just going to be on the back of last night's D.Va here to try and break things open for them. Still change here on this Zenyatta. I want to make an argument for the Zenyatta. I think there is an argument to be made for it here. It certainly can work. These sightlines can be excellent, especially when you're talking about point A and the street's face here. It's just the later we get into this map, it doesn't feel so great when you're getting into those narrow turnabout spaces on the 3rd point. But of course, if you are getting run over for speed, that is also just such a difficult thing, and you might want to consider a swap before things get too crazy.
That's right. Now, you got this May wall from By the Sea, so it's going to be a little thought put into walking through these choke points. Ellison has swapped off of the Widowmaker over onto the Pharah here, so you're not necessarily going to be in the air for free, though, because Sorks on this Sojourn is going to be able to hit you, and so Suzuka on the Baptiste.
Yeah, and as we've seen so far, Sorks and Suzuka can really combine for an incredibly lethal combo there, dealing so much damage at incredible range with, of course, plenty of headshot potential there. That Baptiste could easily be considered DPS in the hands of this particular player here. But it is Captain Crunch, it is the tank getting those crit kills onto the opposition, and it's just back into the spawn door. It's getting shut in by the May wall. I mean, that feels a bit like bullying here.
Okay, we have some swaps. So here, now last night is going to move over onto the Orisa here. Going to be able to withstand kind of this May freeze a little bit and do some more of this long-range damage. But Primordius, I mean, Suzuka's nearly built up to this window already. It's going to be so easy to kind of put that onto the point and just force everybody from Requiem to either eat a bunch of damage or back away around a corner.
Yeah, and of course, you just drop the Maywall and your tank is separated off, and there's really very little that Last Night can do. Unfortunately, the rest of the team able to put in enough damage to actually break the wall down and get your tank to safety, but that's this engagement. Every single time that By the Sea is dropping these walls, they are in such a disadvantageous position for Requiem. They have to play so carefully and so consciously of the incredible, potential of reshaping the map, essentially, here, that By the Sea is dropping on them. So they're going for a very long high ground wraparound, and you already have on the high ground answering back is Captain Crunch here trying to provide some poke potential, and Suzuka is just blasting down this Orisa at distance, and there's nothing Last Night can do. There's no shield. Even the jab spin is just a limited tool to keep yourself defensive. Everyone else falling around, and the tank is the last one to drop. I mean, that is clinical behavior after from Primordius.
Primordius is just controlling the angles, and as soon as cooldowns are forced out of Requiem, they're just firing in the damage. I like the rotation that Requiem was doing there, trying to get up to the high ground, but you don't have any speed, so you're forced to use your cooldowns to clear that gap, and that means that you're just sitting up on the high ground, essentially a free target here. Ellison is going to swap over onto the Tracer here, so they're going to try and get a little bit more angles against this Primordius comp, but Primordius now has 5 ultimates to work with, and we know that they're pretty good about not dumping them all at once, so this fight and the next is going to be very, very tricky for Requiem.
These fights have taken so much time. That wraparound took so long. We are down to just over a minute here for Requiem's offense, and it is just the overclock and the tidal blast coming out, the blizzard as well. So that's a pretty heavy spend here for Primordius. So that is a potential win condition here for Requiem's next engagement. But honestly, with as confident as they're looking, still with 2 ults left in the bank, Requiem only have 3 of their own. Yeah, this is sub-minute territory here for Requiem's push.
I like that Requiem held on to this Kitsune Rush, and the Terra Surge. Dez is going to be able to build up to this overclock as well. You need to dump these ultimates, though. You need to try and take this point, and whenever you take this overtime fight on the point, you're going to be facing up against this Annihilation from Cap'n Crunch and Suzuka. I mean, we've seen what he can do with this Baptiste. Give him a window. It's going to be so dangerous.
Yeah, but the rush onto the objective is the perfect inroad here for Requiem, laid down, trying to keep the tank alive. Last night eating so much damage. Annihilation out rolling for Captain Crunch, finding and dancing on top of Change's bones. Spec does fall down, but with Soul Gaze, that is the entire backline. No heals whatsoever for Requiem. We're down to the final 10 seconds, and Dez, the only one left alive nearby with a sliver of health, taken down by a bloodthirsty Baptiste. If ever I've seen one, Ellison just trying to find some pressure on the objective, but it is not meant to be. That is a full hold from Primordius Rising. They will take the map and take the series and take themselves a continuation of their season, whereas Requiem, unfortunately, we say goodbye to them here tonight. Their CGL season is donezo.
Yeah, Primordius just looked so clean through all that. Very put together, a lot of synergy between these players and a lot of restraint when it came to these fights, knowing when to kind of back out, knowing when to get aggressive. The timing as well, really, really nice from them, kind of recognizing when, if you're going into this overtime, like, okay, pop this ult then, pop that ult after that. Like, you just look so clean. It's a very, very well-deserved win here for Primordius Rising.
Yeah, they honestly didn't seem to sweat very much at all through this series. Again, just a strong compositional choice out from Requiem on Runesapi allowed them to get an early lead, but once you had the adjustments come through, once the backline was a bit less vulnerable to that Mauga, there was really no stopping Primordius. I mean, they more than doubled their opposition's push just on Runesapi alone, and full capping them out with time in the bank on King's Row and full holding your opposition. Yeah, we would have loved it to be a bit closer here. Requiem, unfortunately, just not able to give anywhere near enough of a showing to, put any pressure on Primordius here. So a really well-deserved victory. Very much the better team coming off the victors here. So we say thank you and farewell to Requiem for the rest of their season. But Primordius, I look forward to seeing their progress through the lower bracket here.
Yeah, it takes a lot of grit to kind of run through this lower bracket, especially when you drop down here in that first round. But I think that there's definitely some promise here from this team, and I think that if they keep up what they've been doing tonight, making these adjustments and all that good stuff, I think that they have a pretty good shot to kind of run through the rest of this lower bracket and try and find themselves back up in that finals. But it is going to be a long, long way for them to do that. They got to keep this team up.
Yeah, and they look good tonight, but again, you're going to face harder and harder teams every single time, and of course, you always have the possibility of facing the very team who sent you down here, so that is something you've got to be conscious of, and again, they went down 0-3 in that previous map, that previous series that sent them down here, so that is just something to be very conscious of, that they have to make sure they're playing still at such a high level that they're able to do so. So yeah, being very aware of what they have to improve on, but also take a moment to feel good for yourselves. That was a solid win.
Yeah, and we are going to get an opportunity to speak with those winners. We are going to have an interview. We're going to take a quick little break so we can get that all set up, but please join us after the break to talk with somebody from Primordius Rising.
Welcome back, folks. We are here with an interview. We have got one of our players, of course, from Primordius Rising. We have By the Sea here to join us, our fantastic DPS player. So, By the Sea, just a couple of questions for you here for our Victor's interview. I was really curious. We got to see a bunch of different looks from you throughout the series. Of course, that Tracer ban did stop you from playing that comp. Which one is your favorite to run between that Tracer, the Sombra, and the Mei?
Probably Mei. Mei's really fun. I love just putting up walls. It literally just disrupts the entire lobby. It's so fun.
Yeah, you were getting some really nice right clicks on the Mei as well, so definitely able to kind of put out just as much damage and eliminations as you were getting on the Tracer. Now, with the completion, with the win, I should say, in this series, you are, of course, going to be moving into that lower round 2. Your opponent already decided it is going to be Subsun. Is this a team, I haven't checked, but is this a team, have you guys played against Subsun already? And if so, how are you preparing for that next match?
I might have heard about them, but we will prepare like we always do. We're always in a VC, we're talking about our gameplay and we're reviewing and seeing how we can improve as a team and our coordination.
Absolutely. I do have one more I want to ask for you before we let you go. So you got sent down here to this lower bracket by the Zodiacs. If you have to face them again, how do you think you want to approach that one differently?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, we'll just have to try our best. And, you know, winning isn't everything. The experience is great. So I'm just happy to be here.
Love that. That's, yeah, really good point, right? We're here to have fun. That's important. Now, we are going to open the floor up to you. So if you have any shoutouts or anything that you want to do, the time is yours.
I would love to shout out Charmy. I put in chat. And Diva One Trick, LOL.
All right.
Absolutely. All right, well, By the Sea, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, congratulations on your win. We can't wait to see you guys move through the lower bracket.
Sounds good.
All right, folks, there we had it. Victor's interview. Yeah, not at all too troubled by the state of that match. Very solid victory for the entire roster. I'm glad to see that he really enjoyed that May because, I mean, those walls were just clinical and honestly targeted and unkind at certain points in the best possible way. It really felt as though there was nothing at all the Orisa could do into being just put into a tiny little pen at all situations there. So really solid work on 3 very different looks for the squad.
Yeah, that was it. That was it for CGL 2. Now, we have good news for everybody that's watching. There is going to be more NA Open action happening over on CGL 1. We have a Shiko. We can actually take a look here. It is going to be Shiko no Kaiji Red versus Tarnished, and that is going to be getting started at 10 o'clock Eastern. So make sure that you stick around as we go in for a raid over onto that channel. But it's been super fun to get to watch this NA Open team with you, Rags. Unfortunately, we will not be the ones covering the next one, so you guys are gonna get some fresh new voices on the stream.
Yep, so of course, we'll be sending you right over there with the raid once we are done here. But thank you so much for joining us, folks. Stick around. You'll be seeing plenty more CGL tonight. Do not go anywhere. Grab yourself a drink, grab yourself something to eat, and stick around for the rest of it. But for us, we'll see you next one.
I don't know what you want. Let's have